Hi, I'm attorney Jeremy Huss. When may a person use physical force in self-defense? Knowing self-defense law is the best way a person can protect themselves, physically and legally. In a legal sense, it is important to know the limitations in using self-defense to fend off an aggressor. In fact, one may only defend themselves to the extent the threat is neutralized. A situation may start out as self-defense, but issues may arise if a person goes too far and the act of self-defense escalates into an assault. Let's take the next few minutes to discuss the use of physical force in self-defense. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 13-404A, a person is justified in threatening or using physical force when a person believes physical force is necessary against another's use or attempted use of unlawful force. This is based on the reasonable person standard and is pretty easy to understand. However, justifying behavior through a reasonable person standard becomes more difficult when a situation starts out as self-defense but escalates, as mentioned just a minute ago. For example, a person who neutralizes the threat posed by another but then continues to pummel the other person is not using physical force in a justified manner. A person going from victim to aggressor does not grant a license to do whatever that person desires. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 13-404B, the threat or use of physical force is not justified in a few situations. First, physical force is not justified in response to verbal provocation. What does this mean? Verbal provocation is words alone. A person is allowed to insult and provoke with as many harsh words as they can think of, and it will not justify use of physical force. Second, use of physical force is not justified to resist an arrest the person should know is made by a peace officer. This is whether the person believes the arrest is unlawful or not, unless the physical force used by the peace officer exceeded that allowed by law. Simply put, a person is not justified to use physical force during an arrest by a peace officer unless the peace officer uses more force than necessary. And third, use of physical force is not justified if the person provoked the other person's use of force. A person cannot create an assaultive type environment and then use physical force claiming self-defense. However, in that same situation, if the person who provoked the other's use of physical force withdraws from the encounter or clearly communicates intent but believes he cannot safely withdraw, and the other continues or attempts to use unlawful force against the other person. Simply put, a person is not justified in using physical force if that person provokes the use of force by the other. This is true unless the provoking party withdraws or communicates intent to withdraw, but the other party won't stop. In that situation, the original provoking party may use physical force to prevent the other party from continuing on. Use of physical force is a justification in affirmative defense. This means the defense team must provide notice to the state prior to trial of this defense. It also means the defense must raise some evidence of the defense, but need not prove the defense. Rather, the burden remains on the state to prove this was not self-defense or justification beyond a reasonable doubt. Justification defense, self-defense, legal use of physical force, stand your ground. Regardless of terminology, it is important to note a person has a right and is justified in protecting themselves by combating physical force with physical force. If one is threatened with physical force, they counter with physical force. Physical force is not countered with deadly force unless it is deadly physical force. Indeed, one may only respond to force with like force. It is important for a person to know their rights. and when they are justified in using physical force. Any person under investigation for a crime should call Huss Law today for a free consultation.